Welcome to the Basilica of St. Francis Xavier. I'm Father Dennis Quint, the pastor. Our church is certainly beautiful, made of wonderful brick and stones that come together in a striking manner. Equally inspiring are the people who laid those stones and inspired this beautiful place. The video you're about to watch is about the life of St. Francis Xavier, the patron saint of this parish. The eyes of St. Francis Xavier peered through these windows of the family castle, built in the 10th century, located in northeastern Spain near Pamplona. The man who would later become the apostle to the Far East was born here on April 7th, 1506. The Tower of St. Michael was the origin of the castle and the oldest building of its type in northern Spain. This basilica, added in 1901, commemorates the saint's birth, baptism, and life of ministry. Francis' father died when Francis was only 9 years old. No doubt his faith was strengthened through prayer in the chapel of the castle. Noteworthy is the crucifix upon which the Savior hangs with a smile on his face. Carved in walnut, it dates back from the 13th century. Francis would have learned through prayer in that chapel not to fear death or suffering, but to embrace it and to know of the fruit of suffering and sacrifice in one's life. 1525, Francis left behind his family to cross the countryside of northern Spain and southern France to study at the College of St. Barbe in Paris. At St. Barbe, he met St. Ignatius of Loyola, who became his faithful companion. While at the time he seemed destined for academic success, Xavier turned to a life of Catholic missionary service. Ignatius is said to have posed the question, "What will it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" Together with Loyola and 5 others, in a small chapel in Montmartre, the highest hill in the city of Paris, they made private vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and also vowed to convert the Muslims in the Middle East, or, failing this, carry out the wishes of the Pope. Shortly thereafter, Francis went with the rest of the members of the company toward Jerusalem, stopping in Venice, the point of departure for ships going to the Holy Land. The companions spent several months waiting for a ship and working in hospitals. Next, the little company of the followers of St. Ignatius made their way toward Rome on foot to receive the blessing of the Pope for their voyage. They passed through Ancona and Loreto. Here we see the town of Loreto and the basilica built around the Holy House of Mary, in which the Archangel Gabriel appeared to our Blessed Mother at the Annunciation. The group spent 2 or 3 days in prayer here. Arriving in Rome, Pope Paul III offered his support for the voyage and also gave permission for them to be ordained. After a short sojourn to Rome, the group returned to Venice, where Xavier, Loyola, and 4 others were ordained by the papal delegate in his private chapel on June 24, 1537. With hopes of traveling to the Holy Land dashed by the violence there, the company of Jesus split up for a time. Francis went to Bologna, where he was received with special affection. After recovering from a very serious illness, Ignatius summoned Francis to Rome to serve as his secretary. There he shared in the discussions that led to the formal founding of the Society of Jesus. It was in the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls in Rome, in this chapel, on the Friday of Easter week, April 22nd, 1541, that the friends pronounced their vows in the newly formed order. Unfortunately, Francis was unable to make formal vows with his colleagues in Rome because he had already left to evangelize the people of India and to re-evangelize the Christians who were already there. The King of Portugal had asked for missionaries to go there, and Francis was chosen. The King of Portugal requested that a priest travel to Portuguese India, where he believed Christian values were eroding. 30 years earlier, the Portuguese had established themselves in India. Francis' primary mission was to restore Christianity among the Portuguese settlers. To meet this challenging situation, Xavier decided that he must begin by instructing the Portuguese themselves in the principles of faith, and gave much of his time to the teaching of children. His mornings were usually spent in tending and comforting the distressed in the hospital and prison. After that, he walked through the streets ringing a bell to summon the children and servants to catechism. He devoted almost 3 years to the work of preaching to the people of southern India, converting many, and reaching in his journeys even to the island of Sri Lanka. Many were the difficulties and hardships which Xavier had to encounter at this time, sometimes because the Portuguese soldiers, far from seconding his work, hampered it by their bad example and vicious habits. Francis built nearly 40 churches along the coast. It was from India that Francis made several of his missionary journeys. Francis was the first Jesuit to go to Japan as a missionary. He brought with him paintings of the Madonna and Child. These paintings were used to help teach the Japanese about Christianity. There was a huge language barrier, as Japanese was unlike other languages the missionaries had previously encountered. It was a goal of Xavier to extend his missionary preaching to China. However, he died from a fever on December 3rd, 1552, while he was waiting for a boat that would agree to take him to mainland China.